Today, I want to share a story that is close to my heart, a story about courage, hope, and the power of never giving up. It is the story of a boy named Aaron, who once felt lost and broken because he could not read English like the other children. Imagine sitting in a crowded classroom, watching your classmates read out loud with confidence, while you stare at the page, unable to understand a single word. The laughter of others feels like a heavy weight on your heart, and the disappointed looks from your teacher make you feel even smaller. You wonder, what is wrong with me? Why can't I be like them? Aaron lived this feeling every day. He walked home with his head down, afraid to be called stupid again. But this is not just a story about struggle. It is a story about a quiet spark, something small but powerful, that begins in the darkest moments. One simple gift from his grandfather changed everything: a worn-out dictionary, a gentle word of encouragement, and the decision to try, even when it seemed impossible. This story is for anyone who has ever felt afraid to speak, too shy to try, or stuck in a moment of doubt. It is for all of us who dream of learning, growing, and finding our voice in a new language. As you listen, remember this: learning English is more than just words. It is a journey of courage and strength. Aaron's story will show you how small steps can lead to big changes. So, let's begin. Let's read and learn together, and find the hope that lives inside every challenge. Chapter 1. The Boy Who Sat in Silence. In a small town where the streets were lined with dusty trees and the air always seemed to carry the smell of rain, a boy named Aaron sat in the corner of a crowded classroom. The desks were old and scratched, and the walls were covered with faded charts of the alphabet. Every morning, the teacher asked the students to read aloud from their books. One by one, they stood up, their voices filling the room with steady, confident words. When it was Aaron's turn, the room felt colder. He stared at the page, the letters swimming in front of him like tiny black ants. The words did not form meaning. They were just shapes, strange and heavy in his mind. His hands trembled as he tried to speak, but his mouth stayed dry and empty. The silence stretched. A few students began to giggle. Someone in the back whispered something cruel, and another boy laughed loudly. The teacher's smile faded into a frown. "Aaron," she said softly, "you must practice more." Her voice was not angry, but the disappointment in her eyes felt sharper than any shout. Aaron sat down slowly, his face burning. He wanted to disappear into the desk. He wanted the floor to open up and swallow him whole. That day, and many days after, he walked home with his head down. The schoolyard noise faded behind him, but the laughter stayed in his ears. The word "stupid" echoed in his mind, even though no one had said it aloud that day. He believed it. He believed there was something broken inside him, something everyone else had, but he did not. At home, Aaron often avoided the books on the shelf. He pretended to be busy, helping his mother wash vegetables or carry water, but inside he was hiding. Reading had become a wall he could not climb, and every failed attempt only made the wall seem taller. Evenings were the hardest. His classmates would be outside playing, chasing each other with shouts and laughter, but Aaron stayed in his room, pretending to do homework. Sometimes he would trace the shapes of letters with his finger, wishing they would suddenly make sense, but they never did. One rainy afternoon, he sat by the window, listening to the steady tap of water on the roof. His grandfather, A man with silver hair and deep lines on his face came into the room. He carried something wrapped in cloth. Without saying a word, he placed it on the small wooden table in front of Arun and slowly unwrapped it. Inside was a book. It wasn't like the school books. The cover was worn, the pages slightly yellow, and it smelled faintly of old paper and sunlight. On the first page, there was a drawing of a small boy standing in a wide field. His grandfather smiled gently. "This was my book when I was your age," he said. "It's not for school. It's for you." Arun touched the cover carefully, as if it might break. "But I can't read," he whispered. His grandfather nodded, his eyes warm. "Then we will read it together. Slowly. One word at a time." Something in his voice was different from the teachers, different from the other adults who told Arun to just practice. There was no disappointment here, no judgment, only patience. Arun didn't know why, but for the first time the idea of reading didn't feel like a wall. It felt like a small door, and maybe, just maybe, there was a key. That night, as the rain softened outside, Arun sat beside his grandfather under the dim light of the single bulb in their home. His grandfather read the first sentence aloud, pointing to each word. Arun repeated after him, slowly, awkwardly, but without fear. And for the first time, the laughter from school seemed far away, replaced by the quiet sound of possibility. Chapter 2. The Gift of a Dictionary. The days after that humiliating classroom moment felt heavier than ever. Arun avoided eye contact with everyone, even his own family. He ate his dinner in silence, pushing the food around his plate, pretending to be full. His mother thought he was just tired. His father thought he was simply shy. But his grandfather, he saw more. His grandfather, with his wrinkled hands and gentle eyes, had once dreamed of becoming a teacher. Life had taken him down another road, but the love for learning never left him. He spent his afternoons on the porch, reading old books whose covers had faded from years of sun. One evening, as the light turned gold and shadows stretched across the small house, he called Arun over. The boy shuffled forward, expecting a question about school, something he dreaded. But instead, his grandfather reached into a drawer and pulled out a thick, worn book. Its corners were bent, its pages yellow, and the spine was cracked from years of use. "This," his grandfather said, placing the book gently into Arun's small hands, "is a dictionary. It's old, but still full of treasure. Every word inside has a meaning. Every meaning can open a door." Arun stared at the cover. He didn't feel excited, only confused. What was he supposed to do with a book full of words he couldn't read? "Start with one word a day," his grandfather continued. "Just one. No more, no less. If you do that, you will be surprised how much you can learn." Arun wanted to say it was useless, that words only brought him shame in school. But he couldn't bring himself to disappoint the old man, whose hands trembled slightly as he held the book out. So, he nodded. For days, the dictionary sat on Arun's small desk, untouched. He would glance at it before bed, then turn away, pulling the blanket over his head. The laughter of his classmates still echoed in his mind, drowning any thought of trying again. But one night, long after everyone had gone to sleep, Arun lay awake, staring at the moonlight spilling through his window. The house was quiet. Too quiet. He turned his head toward the dictionary. Something about it, its weight, its mystery, called to him. He got out of bed, sat at the desk, and slowly opened the first page. The paper felt rough beneath his fingertips. His eyes landed on a word: apple. It was a word he had heard before, but seeing it on the page was different. He read the definition slowly, his lips moving without sound. Then, taking a pencil, he wrote the word in his notebook. Apple. He even tried to draw one beside it, the round shape awkward but satisfying. A small spark flickered inside him. It wasn't pride exactly, more like a quiet curiosity. He closed the book and went back to bed, but that night, he fell asleep, thinking about that simple word. The next night, he did it again. This time, he found the word river. He pictured the stream near his village, where the water moved gently over smooth stones. He wrote the word down, then whispered it into the stillness of his room. Day by day, a secret routine began to grow. While the world outside was filled with noise, Aaron's room became his own private classroom. The dictionary was no longer just a book, it was a companion, one that never laughed at him, never told him he was too slow. It was still hard. Sometimes he forgot the meaning of words he had learned just days before. Sometimes the letters blurred together and made him feel foolish again. But he kept going. One word a day. His grandfather never asked if he was using the book. He only smiled knowingly whenever he saw Aaron glance toward the desk. And in that quiet, unspoken understanding between them, a seed was taking root, small, fragile, but alive. Aaron didn't know it yet, but he had begun his first silent battle. Not against his classmates, not against his teacher, but against the voice inside him that had always said, "You can't." And though the voice still whispered, each word he learned was a tiny step toward proving it wrong. Chapter 3. Learning in the Shadows. The mornings in Aaron's house were always quiet. The world still slept, the streets outside empty, and even the birds seemed slow to start their songs. But in the small corner of his room, a dim light flickered. Aaron sat cross-legged on the floor, his grandfather's old dictionary open in front of him. His school books lay untouched. Those felt heavy with failure, but this little book of words felt different. He would whisper the words softly, his lips barely moving. Apple, tree, sky. He liked to say them quietly, as if they were secrets only he could hear. Sometimes he traced the letters with his finger, feeling the shapes, imagining them printed on the pages of his own life someday. After a while, he began to wake up earlier, before his mother called him for breakfast, before the house filled with noise. He would copy words onto small scraps of paper and slip them into his pocket. During the day, in the middle of class, when no one was looking, he would take them out, read them, and repeat them under his breath. At home, he discovered something else: English cartoons. They were silly, colorful, and easy to follow. He turned on the subtitles and began reading as the characters spoke. At first, the words moved too fast, but slowly he caught small ones. Go. Come. Yes. Each one felt like a tiny victory. When a catchy song played, he would hum along. At first, it was just the melody. Then, little by little, the words began to stick. He sang them quietly, almost afraid someone would hear. The songs made him feel lighter, like English was no longer a wall blocking his way, but a door that might someday open. Still, at school, things didn't change much. Aaron's marks were low. His teachers still shook their heads. His classmates still laughed when he stumbled through a sentence. On the outside, It looked like nothing had improved, but inside, something important was happening. He no longer felt stupid. He felt curious. When someone laughed at him, the sting was still there, but now, in his mind, he would think, "It's okay. I'm getting better. You just can't see it yet." That thought alone made him stand a little taller. Every day after school, he would sit by the small window in his room with the fading light on his face, going through his secret lessons. He would match the sounds from cartoons to the shapes in his dictionary. He would write words again and again until his hand ached. It was lonely work. No one cheered for him. No one said good job. There were no quick results to show, but in that quiet, unseen space, he was building something stronger than marks on a test. He was building belief in himself. Sometimes he imagined English like a giant tree. Right now, he was just planting the seeds, and no one could see anything yet. But deep underground, roots were growing, and one day, he told himself, people would see the leaves and the fruit. The small victories became his fuel. The first time he understood a whole sentence in a cartoon without reading the subtitles, he smiled so wide his cheeks hurt. The first time he remembered a word without checking his dictionary, he whispered, "Yes," under his breath, like it was a secret prayer. Slowly, he began to look forward to these quiet moments. They were his own world, free from judgment. He didn't need to prove anything to anyone. He only needed to keep going. And then, one afternoon, everything began to shift. The teacher walked into class carrying a stack of papers. "Today," she announced, "we will read aloud." She handed Arun a sheet and pointed to a paragraph. His heart started to race. His palms grew sweaty. The old fear returned. But somewhere deep inside, under the fear, there was also something new. A tiny voice that whispered, "You've been preparing for this." And as the classroom fell silent, Arun knew this would be the first real test of his secret progress. Chapter 4. The Day. His voice shook. The classroom felt colder than usual that morning. The ceiling fan spun lazily above, but Arun's palms were already sweaty. He was half listening as the teacher called names, each student standing to read a paragraph from the textbook. Some read fast and confident. Others stumbled. Arun kept his head down, tracing the lines on his notebook, praying his name would be skipped. It wasn't. "Arun," the teacher said, looking straight at him. Time seemed to stop. His stomach twisted. The air in the room felt heavier. Every eye turned toward him, and he could hear the soft giggles from the back of the class. This was the moment he always feared. In the past, he would stammer, mispronounce words, and feel the heat of embarrassment on his face. But this time, something felt different. He stood slowly, holding the book as if it might slip from his hands. His heart pounded so hard it almost drowned out his thoughts. The first word stared back at him from the page, big and strange, but not entirely unknown. He had seen it before, on the cartoon subtitles he watched every morning in his quiet corner at home. He took a deep breath. The first word came out, shaky but correct. Then another, and another. His voice trembled, his lips unsure, but the words were there. They didn't flow like water, but they didn't stick like stone either. He could feel the room's attention shift. The giggles stopped. Halfway through, he almost lost his place. His hands shook. A familiar fear crept in. What if he ruined it now? But he remembered the songs he sang softly before bed, the way he had repeated words until they felt natural. He took another breath, steadied himself, and kept going. By the time he reached the last line, the room was silent. He closed the book and sat down quickly, avoiding every gaze. Then he heard it. Soft claps from somewhere near the front. One, then two, then more. His teacher gave a small nod, not overly dramatic, but enough for Aaron to notice. He didn't smile. He didn't look proud. Outwardly, he was calm, almost blank. But inside? Inside, something powerful was happening. It wasn't just relief. It wasn't just surprise. It was the spark of a thought he had never dared to believe. Maybe I can do this. It wasn't perfect. His pronunciation was still heavy, his reading still slow. But he had faced the thing that used to terrify him, and survived. More than survived, he had made people listen. As the rest of the class continued, he barely heard the other voices. He was too busy replaying that moment in his mind, the moment when the fear didn't win completely. The moment when his voice, shaky, uncertain, still made it to the end. For the rest of the day, nothing seemed quite the same. The teasing felt softer, the stares less sharp. Maybe it was his imagination. Or maybe the others had noticed the change too. That night, Aaron lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling. He thought about how far he still had to go. He knew this one small victory didn't mean fluency. It didn't mean top grades. But it was proof that all those quiet hours of practice, all those mornings of whispering words to himself, were not wasted. It was the first time he truly believed he was not stupid. And belief, he realized, was a dangerous thing. Because once you believe you can improve, you start to wonder how much more you can do. The next morning, as he tied his shoelaces, he made a silent decision. He wouldn't just keep learning in secret. He would find more ways, better ways, to grow. If a few months of quiet practice could get him through that reading, then maybe, just maybe, there was a faster path forward. He didn't know exactly where to look yet, but he knew one thing. The world was bigger than his classroom. And somewhere out there, answers were waiting. And that's when his thoughts turned to something he had barely explored before, something that could open doors he never knew existed. The Internet. Chapter 5. YouTube, Subtitles, and Self-Belief. Arun's world began to expand the day he stumbled upon the glowing blue and red icon of YouTube. At first, he wasn't looking for English lessons. He just wanted to listen to songs. But one click led to another, and soon he found videos with titles like Learn English with Music and Daily English Practice. He watched them quietly, the volume low so no one could hear. The videos were different from his school lessons. They weren't strict or boring. They were friendly, colorful, and full of energy. Some teachers smiled through the screen, speaking slowly, clearly, and kindly, as if they were talking just to him. Arun began to watch them every day after finishing his homework. He discovered something magical: subtitles. For the first time, he could match the words he heard to the words he saw. When the singer in a music video said, "Apple," the letters appeared at the bottom of the screen. Exactly the same word his grandfather had once told him to write. That small spark from months ago began to burn brighter. Aaron started pausing videos every few seconds to write down new words in an old notebook. His handwriting was messy, but each page felt like a step forward. Sometimes he would play a video again and again until he could repeat the sentences without looking. He even began to record himself on his phone, practicing pronunciation. Listening back was painful at first. He could hear every mistake, but instead of deleting the recordings, he kept them. They became proof of his journey. One evening, while scrolling, Aaron saw a video with the title, "Mistakes Are Good." He almost skipped it, thinking it sounded strange. How could mistakes be good? In school, mistakes brought laughter from classmates and sighs from teachers. But curiosity made him click. The video was simple. A smiling teacher explained how every mistake was a sign you were trying, learning, and growing. If you never make mistakes, the teacher said, it means you're not pushing yourself enough. Aaron listened once, then again, then 8 more times. Each replay felt like a layer of shame peeling away from his heart. He thought about the times he had stayed silent to avoid being wrong. He thought about the dictionary his grandfather had given him, and the early mornings he had spent whispering words in the corner. Maybe all those moments weren't failures after all. They were the path. From that day, something shifted. Aaron stopped hiding from hard words. He began trying to speak even if he wasn't sure he was correct. When he couldn't remember a word, he didn't give up. He searched for it online, listened to it, repeated it. Slowly, his fear was replaced by a strange new feeling. Self-belief. His room became more than just a place to sleep. It was his secret classroom. The walls held sticky notes with English phrases. His desk was piled with notebooks, and his phone was his window to a world of teachers, songs, and stories. No one in his class knew about this second life he was living, but inside, he could feel himself changing. And then, something unexpected happened. During lunch break at school, a younger boy sat next to Aaron and struggled to read a line from an English worksheet. Without thinking, Aaron leaned over and whispered the correct word. The boy smiled in relief. It was a small thing, but for Aaron, it was the first time he had used his growing knowledge to help someone else. That night, lying in bed, Arun realized something powerful. The boy's smile had felt even better than his own victories. Maybe, he thought, this journey wasn't just about learning English for himself. Maybe it was also about what he could give to others. And with that thought, the seed planted by his grandfather began to grow roots. Transition. Aaron didn't know it yet, but helping that younger boy was only the beginning. Soon, he would find himself guiding more people than he ever imagined. Chapter 6. Helping One Friend. The afternoon sun hung low over the schoolyard, painting long shadows across the dusty ground. Aaron was packing his bag, ready to leave, when he noticed Ravi still sitting at his desk. Ravi's brow was furrowed, his lips moving silently over the same sentence in their English book. He looked frustrated, just like Aaron used to look not so long ago. Aaron paused. He knew that feeling too well, the helplessness of wanting to say the words but watching them tangle and twist on your tongue. He hesitated for a moment, unsure if he should interfere. After all, he was still learning himself. But something inside whispered, "You can help." He walked over quietly. "Hey, want to try reading it together?" he asked. Ravi looked up, surprised. They started slowly. Aaron broke the words into smaller pieces, pronouncing each syllable, encouraging Ravi to repeat after him. At first, Ravi stumbled. His cheeks turned red. But Arun remembered the nights he had whispered words alone in the dark. So he smiled and said, "It's okay. We'll try again." For the next 20 minutes, the classroom was their little world. The noise of the other kids faded. Line by line, Ravi's voice grew steadier. When they finally finished the paragraph, Ravi's eyes lit up. I did it," he said softly, almost in disbelief. That moment sparked something neither of them could see coming. The next day, Ravi found Arun before class. "Can we practice again after school?" he asked. Arun agreed. By the end of the week, Ravi was smiling more in class. His confidence was growing, and word began to spread. First, it was one other boy who asked if he could join, then 2 more. Soon, Arun had a small group of classmates sitting with him every evening in a quiet corner of the schoolyard. They brought their books, their mistakes, and their determination. At first, Arun felt nervous. He wasn't a teacher. How could he guide others? But as the days passed, he realized he wasn't just teaching English. He was teaching what he had learned the hard way: patience, persistence, and the courage to keep trying even when you feel like giving up. His friends began to look at him differently. The boy they once saw as quiet and invisible was now someone they admired. They didn't say it out loud, but Arun could feel it. Every time one of them read a sentence correctly, they would glance at him with pride and gratitude. And yet, Arun didn't boast or brag. He didn't even think of himself as a leader. He just knew how good it felt to see someone else win, and to know you played a part in it. One afternoon, as Arun and his group were practicing under the shade of a tree, someone unexpected appeared. His English teacher stood a few steps away, watching quietly. Arun froze, worried they might be told to stop. But the teacher simply smiled and said, "I've heard about what you're doing." Arun's stomach tightened. Was he in trouble? Instead, the teacher walked closer, placed a hand on his shoulder, and said, "I have an idea. I think you can help more students, officially." Arun blinked in surprise. "Officially?" "Yes," the teacher replied. "We'll talk tomorrow. I think it's time for you to take this further." Arun didn't know what that meant exactly, but he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: excitement for what was coming next. Chapter 7. A Teacher in the Making. The next morning, Arun woke with a strange feeling in his chest. His teacher had asked to see him after class. When the moment came, she smiled kindly and said, "Arun, I want you to lead a short session on pronunciation tomorrow. Just a few minutes. Will you try?" His heart pounded. Leading a class? The thought made him nervous. What if he made mistakes? What if the students laughed? But deep down, something inside told him this was a chance, something he could not let go. The next day, the classroom buzzed with chatter. Arun sat quietly, waiting for the right moment. When the teacher nodded at him, he stood slowly, feeling every eye on him. His hands shook a little, but he took a deep breath and began. "Hello, everyone," he said, his voice soft but clear. He looked at the students, remembering the videos he had watched so many nights before. He spoke slowly, carefully. "Today we will practice the th sound." He held up a small card with the word think written on it. "Repeat after me. The. Think." The students repeated, some stumbling, others trying their best. Arun smiled inside. This was not about being perfect. It was about trying, learning, and helping each other. He used simple examples, just like the videos taught him. He showed how to put the tongue gently between the teeth, how to breathe out softly. He even sang a little rhyme he had learned, and soon the room filled with laughter and effort. As the minutes passed, Arun's nervousness faded. He saw his classmates listen, try, and improve. They repeated words and smiled when they got it right. For the first time, Arun felt a quiet confidence grow inside. When the session ended, the teacher came over and placed a hand on his shoulder. "That was wonderful," she said warmly. "You have a gift, Arun. Keep using it." Her words surprised him. A gift? Him? He had never thought of himself like that before. The boy who used to be silent in the classroom, who was afraid to speak, was now standing in front of others, teaching. That evening, Arun sat quietly in his room, thinking. The old dictionary on his desk, the videos he watched, the friends he helped, all of it had led to this moment. He realized that learning wasn't just about passing exams. It was about finding your own strength and sharing it with others. For the first time, he began to imagine a future where he was not just a student, but a teacher, someone who could help others, just like his grandfather had helped him. It was a small thought at first, almost a whisper, but it grew louder in his heart. He wondered what it would be like to teach English every day, to make a difference in people's lives. Arun smiled softly to himself. The boy who once sat in silence was finding his voice, and that voice was beginning to believe. Years passed. Arun worked hard, finishing school and learning more every day. He never forgot those first lessons, how small steps can lead to big changes. When the time came to choose his path, Arun made a decision. He would become an English teacher, but not just in a classroom. He wanted to reach more people, wherever they were. So he chose a new way, teaching English online. It was a new challenge, but Arun felt ready. Because he had learned the most important lesson of all, believing in yourself can change everything. And so his journey continued, from silent struggle to quiet teacher, from fear to hope, from doubt to discovery. The story was only just beginning. Chapter 8. The YouTube channel. When Arun started college, he had a new dream. He wanted to help more people learn English. Not just his friends at school, but people all over the world. But he knew he needed tools. He worked hard, saving every rupee from part-time jobs and small tasks. After months, he finally bought a second-hand phone. It was old and scratched, but to Arun, it was like a treasure. With this phone, he could make videos and share his lessons. He decided to start a YouTube channel. He named it simply, Learn English with Arun. It felt personal, but also hopeful. Arun began making short videos. His first videos were simple. He showed how to pronounce the th sound, the one that had once been so hard for him. He explained how to learn English with music, sharing the songs he had loved. He taught how to read slowly and carefully, just like he had done in the quiet corners of his room. But at first, no one watched. The views stayed at 0 or 1. The comments were empty. It felt like he was speaking into the wind. Sometimes, Arun felt discouraged. He remembered the old days when classmates laughed at him. Was this just the same? Was he invisible again? But he did not give up. He kept making videos, believing that one day someone would listen. Then, something small but powerful happened. One video about learning English with songs got 1,000 views. It was a number Arun never thought possible. More important than the views were the comments. One message caught his eye. It said, "You speak like me. You give me hope." Arun read it again and again. Someone out there understood him. Someone felt brave because of his words. That night, Arun cried. But these were not tears of sadness. They were tears of joy, relief, and hope. For the first time, Arun felt truly seen. He was not alone in his struggle. His quiet dream was connecting to the world. Each day after that, more people found his channel. They watched his videos, practiced with him, and wrote messages of thanks. Arun's voice was reaching places he had never imagined. People from cities and villages, different countries and cultures, all came together to learn and grow. His mission became bigger than just learning English. It was about hope, courage, and the power of sharing. From the boy who once sat in silence, Arun had become a voice for many, and his journey was only beginning. Chapter 9. From Student to Global Teacher. Years passed, and Arun's life changed in ways he never imagined. The boy who once sat quietly, afraid to read aloud, was now invited to speak at a large international English conference. This event was not just in his small town. It was online, connecting people from many countries all over the world. When the day came, Arun felt nervous, but he also felt strong. He knew his story was important, not just for him, but for everyone who had ever struggled to learn. He began by telling the truth about his past, how he was once the boy who couldn't read, how his classmates laughed, how he felt alone and broken. But Arun did not stop there. He shared the quiet moments, waking up early to study, the gift from his grandfather, the small victories that no one saw. He talked about the nights spent watching videos and singing songs, the fear he felt when reading aloud for the first time, and the moment when his voice finally shook but did not stop. His words were simple, but full of feeling. Teachers and learners from different places listened carefully. Some had tears in their eyes. Some sat quietly, nodding in agreement. Others smiled and clapped softly. Arun spoke about the power of hope, courage, and never giving up, even when it feels impossible. At the end of his speech, Arun looked into the camera and said something that felt like a gift for everyone watching. Every time you learn a word, you change your world. The screen filled with applause and messages from around the globe. People thanked Arun for sharing his journey. They said his story gave them courage to keep trying. In that moment, Arun understood something deep inside. His pain, the fear, the shame, the loneliness, had become a purpose. His voice, once silent and small, now carried across borders and oceans. He was no longer just a student or a teacher in one small town. He was a teacher for the world. And as the applause faded, Arun felt a quiet hope grow inside him. A hope not only for himself, but for everyone who dreams of learning, growing, and changing their life. This was just the beginning of something much bigger, something that connected every learner to the power inside them. And Arun knew that the journey was still unfolding, one word at a time. Chapter 10. Your turn to rise. Now, Arun speaks directly to you. He knows how it feels to be afraid, to feel slow, to think you are broken. Maybe you think, I am not good enough. But Arun wants you to hear this. You are not broken. You are learning. And that learning makes you strong. It does not matter where you start. It does not matter how many mistakes you make. Every mistake is part of your song, a song only you can sing. When you stumble, when you don't know the right word, that is not failure. That is courage. English is not just a set of rules or hard grammar. English is a journey of bravery. It is the choice to try again, even when it feels difficult. Arun remembers the days when he wanted to hide, when his voice shook, when he thought he would never speak well. But he did not stop. Step by step, word by word, he moved forward, and now he wants you to do the same. You are not alone. Your story is part of a larger story, one filled with people just like you, people who learn quietly in the shadows, people who rise, slowly but surely, people who change their worlds with every new word. If Aaron could rise from silence and fear, so can you. The path may be hard, it may feel long, but every small step brings you closer to your dream. Keep going, keep trying, keep believing. Your voice matters. The world needs your voice. Imagine a future where you speak with confidence, where you connect with others, where your dreams grow bigger because you chose to rise. That future is waiting for you. This is your moment, your time to shine. Arun's journey was one story, but now it is many stories. Your story, the video ends, but your journey is just beginning, and the world is ready to listen. Thank you for joining me on Arun's journey today. His story shows us something very important. No matter how hard it feels, no matter how many times you struggle or fail, every step you take brings you closer to your goal. Learning English is not just about memorizing words or grammar, it's about finding your voice, believing in yourself, and never giving up. Remember, like Aaron, you might feel slow or stuck sometimes. That is okay. Every mistake you make is part of your path, part of your story. Each word you learn is a small victory. You are stronger than you think, and your effort matters more than you know. If Arun could start from silence and fear and become a teacher inspiring thousands, then so can you. Your journey is just beginning. Keep practicing, keep trying, and keep believing that your voice is important. The world is waiting to hear what only you can say. Thank you for watching Read and Learn English. I hope Arun's story gives you hope and courage to keep going. Remember, every day is a new chance to learn, to grow, and to shine. Until next time, keep reading, keep learning, and never stop believing in yourself. Your voice can change your world.